I've had many leading experts on this show, including Matthew Walker, and they've all said the same thing about sleep. They've said it's the biggest positive investment you can make in your own performance. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you're consistently tired, poor decision-making will follow and eventually cause other things to fail in your life. So if you're looking to optimize your recovery, you should start looking at what you're sleeping on. Our sponsor, Helix, makes high-quality mattresses tailored to your body. It doesn't matter if you run hot, sleep on your side, or need something firm. Helix has a mattress for you. And I asked them recently to send one to a member of my team, and Juan received it. And we travel a lot, so when he's home, quality sleep really matters. And he told me he's getting the best sleep of his life. And the data backs it up, with 82% of people in a Helix study saying they saw an increase in their deep sleep. And with a 120-night trial, you've got 4 months to prove it to yourself. You can get 27% off at helixsleep.com/diary. That's helixsleep.com/diary.
People are annoyed because they think the people that invested have been burnt, and then you've just bought the business back.
At that point, shit was real.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It's not. It's absolutely horrible. It's the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life. You know, and this is actually the first time I've spoke about it.
What's the truth?
Yo.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Fairly last minute. I've just got back from New York, and I was thinking, I'm coming to Manchester. I want to make the most use of my time in this city, and you are one of the more, if you don't mind me saying, one of the more famous, renowned young entrepreneurs here, building an incredible business in an incredible way with an incredible reputation. So I thought I would call on you to have this conversation with you. I think there's a huge amount of things that will relate on. I hope there's some things that we have different views on as well. But
I'm sure that's definitely going to be the case.
100%. But thank you so much for coming.
You know, thank you for having me on.
Last minute. Here's where I want to start. And I do this sometimes as a challenge. In 30 seconds, can you tell me Luke Massie's story from birth till now? And the reason I do this is because I think it helps filter out the moments that are most significant. Do you reckon you're up for that challenge?
Of course, always.
Okay, so I'm going to stick 30 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, cool. So young lad, born in Preston, one of five. Grew up in a council estate. Father wasn't around. Been through school, went to college, didn't go to university. Set up first business, set up another business, constantly challenged. Favourite sayings, why not? Came across a big industry. I'm now challenging the big operators in that space, and day to day asking why not.
Perfect. Exactly 30 seconds. Tell me about that first business.
So my first business was a company called Mortgage Claims Direct, right. Which, believe it or not, had nothing to do with mortgages.
How old are you?
So I was 17 when I founded the company. So the company came about, I was at Cardinal Newman College in my first year of doing my A-levels, so I was doing my AS. Mm-hmm. Based in Preston, and that was 9 to 4 every day. I was there 5 days a week.
The college was?
Yeah, right. So I was doing economics, finance and sport actually at the time. And I was working at a law firm part-time in the evenings to make some money. Mm-hmm. So I used to finish at 4 and then run round the corner to start work at 4:30 till 8:30 every night.
Sorry to interrupt that.
Yeah.
Why?
So I needed to make money. So
why?
My mum is unemployed, has been ever since I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was at school, I was making money buying and selling sweets.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to make some cash to even just go out with my friends at the weekend. I've always been that person. So I've always made money, whether it was a milk round, whether it was a paper round, whether it was buying and selling sweets, etc. So even though I was at college, I didn't see that as an opportunity not to make cash.
Do you think if you said your dad wasn't around?
Yes, for a number of years, yeah.
Do you think if your dad had been around and your mum had been employed, you would be who you are today?
Well, probably not. I think my outlook on things would be different. I think my attitude towards challenges would be different. I think you probably get hardened all the time to challenges. And I think that starts at a very young age. I think in an isolation, I think being an entrepreneur, you come across challenges every single day. I think most people would crumble at those challenges because you know, the big decisions that you're making have not just happened here and it happens right now. This is, you know, combined over, you know, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. So, yeah, going back to the first business, it was I was working on the phones at a law firm, but there was actually a part of the law firm which was a lead generation arm to the business. And basically, I was the annoying young lad at 17 ringing up, asking if you'd been mis-sold PPI. Oh, yeah. But it was at a time when the banks hadn't lost, so every person we were calling would convert sort of 1 in 20. Right. And it was really hard. It was really hard work. And then something happened. The banks had lost. Mm-hmm. It was now legal that the banks had to repay people that had been mis-sold PPI. It was one of the biggest scandals ever. Mm-hmm. And our conversion rate went from 1 to 20 to literally 50%. Every other person I was calling, we got a hit. So I managed to save up £3,000 and thought, I can do this myself. It's an unregulated business. The barriers to entry are so low. We don't have to be a solicitor firm. We can be a lead generation and act on behalf of our clients. We keep 25% of the money that's come back. It was a brilliant model. So I created my own script. I convinced 2 of the top girls to come and work for me. I said, I've just raised this investment. I managed to lie to a landlord in Preston, got an office space. I was meant to be 18 to get a tenancy. Set up this call centre and called it Mortgage Claims Direct. And the reason for that is one of the biggest challenges I had at the law firm was when I was ringing up calling from a PPI company, they didn't give me a chance. Sure. Whereas if I was calling from Mortgage Claims Direct, a mortgage is really important to everyone. They give me at least 30 seconds on the phone, which allowed me, that foot through the door. And we saw that our conversion was much higher than everyone else's. So the $3,000 I worked out that I had basically 6 weeks worth of money. I was paying these women full time whilst I was still at college doing my A-levels. And, I still to this day, I'm fortunate enough for it, but we ran out of cash. And for 2 weeks, I had to say to these women, this investor's waiting to send the check to me, etc. The money's coming in. And fortunately enough, some of the claims started to come in, which gave me cash flow. So we managed to scale that business to 12 staff. And I sold the business for £94,000 a week before my 18th birthday, which sort of set the ball in motion, which is, wow, there's ways to make cash here. So
it's incredible. They're running a business at 17 years old where you have 12 staff. It's pretty incredible. I worked in call centres from 16 to 20, roughly, for about 16 to 19 years old. And I genuinely think the call centre experience is one of the most valuable...
100% agree where you're going with this.
Valuable skills I developed. Being a 16-year-old, calling up people at random, out the blue at 9 a.m. at night, trying to sell them double glazing or fascia boards or conservatories, really teaches you something which becomes a real valuable transferable skill as an entrepreneur.
Completely agree. And it also sets you up for one of the biggest things in life that people don't like, which is failure, which is that, stepping out of your comfort zone, picking up the phone, speaking to a stranger, that is real life. And, I talk about this a lot, but call centres are the modern day workshops. They are the modern day factories. And
if you think about everything that requires mastery, it's a process of like practice makes perfect. So like David Beckham, he learns to do amazing free kicks by continually kicking the ball at the net for years and years and years. And if you think about what call centre work is, you sit there, you pick up the phone, you try, you learn, oh shit, that didn't work with that type of person.
Yeah.
10 seconds down, the phone is down. 10 seconds later, the phone is back up. You're trying again. I think there's a huge element of self-awareness, though, to that. When I would call, I knew that the likelihood of someone buying from me based on how I looked was very, very low. Yeah. I knew that if I was a Steve or a Stephen, it made a huge difference. I knew if I was, more articulate and, those little things, but also...
personal, yeah.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is a tremendous thing, and I think self-awareness is something you can't teach.
Yeah.
Understanding what people think of you. So anyway, moving on. So you did that, you sold the business, you're 18 years old. What happens next?
Made a few mistakes.
Mistakes?
Went and bought a car that I shouldn't have done.
What car?
RS5,
Nice.
£1,000 a month car insurance.
Really?
And still then going back to see my mum in a council estate. Wasn't the best decision. Also sort of gets the wrong attention. I think at the end of the day, looking back now, it's a really poor decision. At the time, I always wanted that car. I went into Audi, and for me, it was my money. I've made it, that sort of thing. But that money could have been used a lot better. But those are mistakes that I made at an early stage, which meant I've not had to go and do those now. And then, I also started to invest in other businesses. Friends had come up to me with an idea of a loft converting business, for example. So I invested in Preston loft conversions. And I thought that if I could invest little bits of capital into 3 or 4 businesses, that would generate me that would generate me £20,000-30,000 a year per business, and I wouldn't have to work again. And it was that because I'd had one success, I thought that would work for everything else. And that was another huge mistake, which is you can't spread yourself too thin, but at the same time, stick to what you know. Don't go into markets that you don't know about.
So where did Vibe come in?
So Vibe was founded when I was 20 years old, but it wasn't a business. So people talk about Vibe was founded in 2013. It's 5 years old. Yes, it was formed in 5 years ago. That's because I incorporated the name. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a very, very good brand at the time, but I didn't know what it was. So I had 4 tickets to see Ed Sheeran that I bought on my card. Mm-hmm. We bought, for me and my friends, we bought 4 tickets, £100 each. Mm-hmm. They gave me the cash, I put it in my bank, and I made the purchase for these tickets. Something came up in the social calendar which meant we couldn't go to the event, and my mates were asking for the cash back, basically. So I went to Google, typed in selling tickets, and there was a number of sites that offered me the option to sell these tickets. There was Get Me In, Viagogo, Seatwave, StubHub. It was a pretty crowded market. You know, they were all offering the same service for the same fees, etc. But the problem I had as a consumer at the time was two major problems. First of all, they all charged me a selling fee. Sure. So in order for me to get the £400 back, I had to list them at £500. And knowing at the other end there was a buyer going to pay a fee as well, I just didn't think that was morally right. But if I'm being completely honest with everyone, the biggest issue I had with it was that all these sites would only pay me the money after the event because they wanted to control the process. Now, what 20-year-old lad can afford to give their mates back £100 each and wait for 6 months? Yeah. It just wasn't feasible. So I thought, this is shit. Went to Twitter, anyone at our age, when they've got a problem, goes and rants about it. I tweeted the fact that I had 4 tickets to see Ed Sheeran, #Manchester, #Ed Sheeran. And literally within sort of 4 or 5 minutes, there was genuine Ed Sheeran fans tweeting me. Mm-hmm. Hi, Luke, I'll take the tickets. They could see that I was a real person. Mm-hmm. They could see that I invested in my Twitter profile. So I got chatting to one genuine Ed Sheeran fan. I tweeted him, screenshotted him my confirmation of purchase, shared with him my PayPal details so he could send me money as a stranger, it would be covered. And I managed to get my money back within 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it was at that time where I questioned, as I always have in life, my why, is, there was a need here on a buyer and a seller's part, but the current operators in the space weren't fulfilling that need for either of us. Mm-hmm. So I started questioning, if I've done this, surely there's other people doing it. So I started using things like TweetDeck and checking how many tweets there were. Mm-hmm. And just on Twitter alone, there was between 15 and 25 million tweets a month with the keywords need tickets, want tickets, spare tickets. Mm-hmm. So that's when the light bulb moment happened for me, which is if I can replicate what I've done, then I can help thousands of people. So we set up basically the #GoodVibes, and that's how Vibe was born. Vibe Tickets was a free resource. Anyone who wanted a ticket or had a spare ticket would tweet us and we'd just retweet it. Mm-hmm. And within the first 6 months, we grew to 60,000 followers. We then grew to 100,000 followers. And this was an amazing time for us because we had people from the industry itself, from Ticketmaster, using our hashtag and using our Twitter handle. Right. And it was insane. And that's how I actually met my first investor who basically used Twitter to sell some Formula One tickets and was like, I want to know who this lad is behind this account because he's just saved me a fortune. This is such a good idea.
So you, so at some stage you think I'm going to turn this into a company and an app.
Well, again, the idea was planted in my head, so completely randomly. But the guy who ended up being my first investor said to me, Matt Newin, said to me, "This is really cool. Wouldn't it be brilliant if every time someone tweeted you made £1?" So at the time, just to give you an idea of figures, it was just me in my bedroom, but we were doing between 3,000 and 5,000 tweets a day, retweets, like connecting people. And just to give you an idea of volume, that's probably between £3 and £5 million worth of tickets every single day. Mm-hmm. So we were causing nuisance in the resale market because the big four resale are spending money on user acquisition, on SEO, on PPC to try and get people to these sites. And we're just taking it all on social because we removed those barriers to entry. We just wanted to connect those people. So it was at that time that, this guy who was obviously a lot older than me, a lot more savvy than me, sort of presented this idea. And that's when I thought, a marketplace. So it's brilliant that all these people are using Twitter, but A, I don't own the customer. Mm-hmm. B, I can never monetize this. Mm-hmm. And C, if I'm going to build something of value and I want to pivot and change the product, I'm going to have to own it myself. Mm-hmm. And that's when, I went back to him with a business idea and said, look, I've listened to what you've said. You've planted this idea in my mind. I can't get it out of my head now. I think I can build a Vibe community. And that's when the idea of Vibe came about, and I wrote my first business plan as such. And on that day, he wrote me a cheque for £200,000.
A physical cheque?
A physical cheque for £200,000. He said, "Will this be enough to get you on your way?"
So you make this MVP, this kind of like minimal viable product to prove the concept, and then you raised. You raise again?
Yeah, we carried on raising, but I mean, this is another thing that people ask me about. How do I raise capital? Our MVP was the Twitter account. Mm-hmm. We could prove that even though we didn't have a product, that thousands of people were using this as a genuine alternative.
Yeah, I guess you can prove the need.
Yes.
Right. Then there's you got to prove the execution.
Yes.
Of the idea, right? So,
and this is where I think for anyone who's listening who's trying to raise capital really needs to consider this, because the amount of people that come to me asking for investment from myself or access to my investors, are typically raising between 100,000 and 200,000. And when I actually ask them why are you raising this money, 9 times out of 10 it's to prove this idea that I've got in my head. When they could actually go and prove the idea that they've got in their head without the £200,000 or without the £100,000, they could create a Facebook group or they could create a Twitter account and just prove the need. And then it's a different scenario, which is, look, I've already demonstrated the need, I now just need capital to make this happen.
So here's the thing. So you start, my first company was like a tech company. Very, very interesting, a lot of the sort of parallels between it, because I realised the need was there. One of the ways I realised the need was there was when we created a Facebook group that did the same thing. It was so active. It was so active, in fact, that I knew that if this Facebook group was a website and I owned it, it would probably be worth hundreds of millions of pounds at scale. So if we took it to more universities.
Yep.
The Facebook group was just for Manchester, so I tried to create the website, didn't work, whatever. But one of the things that I learned from running a tech company was that money runs out quick. And
very quick.
One of the interesting things is, especially when it's like a pre-revenue tech company, as a founder, you look at the bank account and it's like an hourglass. The more time that passes, the lower this number gets.
Yeah.
And it's almost in some respects like a bit of a runway. This aircraft has got to take off before the end of the runway.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it falls off the fucking runway.
Yeah.
Investment, what it does is it extends
the runway, yeah.
the length of the runway, but because it increases the overheads, it increases the speed of the aircraft.
Yes.
So the aircraft's now just going faster down the fucking runway. There's more overheads, right?
Yeah.
So how does that feel as a tech founder dealing with that constant ticking down of the bank balance? How have you dealt with that?
Very, very good question, Steve. And no one asked this question, so
because no one
thank
knows
you for asking it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So first of all, in the first year, it's terrifying. You think you're onto something. You've now brought these people in. They've bought into the vision. You've convinced people who have got families and dependents to come and join this operation and come and join this vision. But you also know that it's part of your strategy to actually make an impact in the industry by going in with this different monetization model. So, for people that don't understand Vibe, is that not only is our offering different as a product, but our commercial model is different as well to the industry, which is we completely separate ourselves from resale. We're offering a different alternative. So, the first year for me was turbulent. It was so hard to get in my head that I'm going to have to keep going out and raising capital here and trying to pivot and trying to understand where we're going to generate revenue. And, I sat down and we built a very, very good advisory board, and, a huge influence on that was Richard Branson. Without sort of trying to bring him into the story, he was one that said, you've got to look at this bigger picture. If this is your game plan, you need to make sure that it's part of your strategy and you execute very, very well. And
you met him on, was it Virgin's Pitch to Rich competition?
Yes, Virgin's Pitch to Rich competition. So I was down in London.
Did you win that?
Yeah, no, I was actually a finalist.
Right.
We won capital, but Richard then singled me out and identified me, someone that he wanted to mentor, and been to his house several times, spent time with him on that. And I think he saw what I was trying to do with Vibe as a challenger brand and the world against it.
And you were doing good with the world as well, which is in line with...
Exactly. We're trying to build something that's right. People all the time question Vibe's model. I could tell you right now that if I turned on monetization tomorrow and charged for this service, we would be profitable within 6 weeks. But it's not the right thing to do. So we're going about it a different way. And, the external pressures, that is very, very difficult to stay strong to what you're trying to achieve and what the strategy is. There was 3 finalists. We all won cash.
Got you.
And then McReba, the Plastic Roads guy, ended up winning the actual competition.
What did they win?
I think he won more cash,
right.
And some prizes from JC Decor, some of the partners, etc. That is a fantastic business, by the way. Toby's a brilliant founder, so he was definitely a deserved winner, and he is making a global impact to plastic. So fair play to him. But yeah, the following day, Richard invited me to his house.
Fucking hell.
I think he just liked Vibe.
Sure.
And it was at that point where Richard Branson said to me, look, Luke, Vibe isn't a ticketing business. Mm-hmm. Don't think of it as a ticketing business. You're in the business of connecting people, and data is your currency.
Right.
And that's when things click for me, which is, okay, how I've been packaging Vibe, how I've been selling Vibe, how I've been trying to convince people has to change. Vibe is about removing those barriers, and it's about challenging any company that deliberately positions itself to exploit the customer. That's where Vibe can go as a brand. And that really started to excite me, but also the investors that I'd previously visited, which was, look, you've been thinking about Vibe as a ticketing business. The industry's very, very competitive. It's going to be difficult to demonstrate a model that's going to work. How about looking at this from this position? And that's when the real cash started coming in.
But how is it? To go back to the question, like how is it being a tech founder who is presumably always raising money? Like even when you raise, you close the raise, you have to then basically start thinking about the next raise again, right?
Yeah.
So what is it? What I'm trying to get at is like, I understand from my perspective what it's like, especially as a startup. In our first year, our bank account just went one way, right?
Yeah.
But what does that feel like on a day-to-day basis? How does that impact your life? Do you come to peace with the idea that?
As I said, I think you need to accept that this is the strategy and this is what we're playing for, and you do it right. The model that Vibe's doing isn't new.
What impact does it have on you though?
It's very, very stressful, and but you've got to take that burden on as a founder, I think.
How has it changed you on a personal level? How is Luke different because of those things now than he was 3 years ago?
Wow, that's a really good question.
This is what we're going to do on this podcast, by the way.
That's a really good question, and someone has ever answered that, and that's probably because you're a founder yourself. I think it's made me. So Vibe's been in positions where we've got 20 odd staff. There's 80k about to go away. Whatever, and we won't go into details, but the burn rate's chugging on. You've got 3 days of capital left, and it's like you've got investors there, and they're riding on their investors. They're waiting to get to a point where it's best to negotiate their position.
Of course.
But you become hardened to it, and I think you then start understanding things from a different perspective. And what you've got to do is you've got to take the emotion out of it. You've got to take these guys are trying to screw me away. You've got to take the emotion out of, I'm really worried about everything else. You've got to go, look, this is the product. This is how we're doing things. This is why we're so successful. And the alternative is turn on monetization and slow growth, or turn on monetization and go out against everything you've said and force something. Stick true to what you have, and it'll come good. And that's the only advice I can sort of give to people that are embarking on it.
In your first 2 years, what was your worst moment? Your toughest moment, let's say. The moment you thought, maybe not the toughest moment for you, but the moment which most people would consider the toughest. So for us, it was probably when one day on the way to work, 6 a.m. in the morning, we get hacked, and someone emails all of our clients, really personal, abusive things. We lose all of our clients. There's 70 people here. They lose all their clients, so we know we've got no money. And the sort of cherry on the top of that cake was that it was our team building day. Yeah. So everyone was on their way to paintballing. We pulled up at paintballing. On my way there at 6 a.m., I start getting calls. Our investors have received personal abuse from our email address.
That's insane.
And getting there and having to tell the whole company to turn around, we're going home, and we're going back to the office. There's no clients there. They're all wearing their like tracksuits and stuff, us sitting on the desks. Them seeing me in the glass room, like on the phone
just
to all
pacing,
these brands. These brands telling me that I'm a fucking bullshitter. What was your toughest moment in the first 2 years?
Probably, well, it's happened over the course of it, but I think the hardest thing for me has been thinking that something was when it wasn't. And what I mean by that is quite publicly recently, there's been a situation with Vibe where I was backed into a corner by someone who was my mentor, someone who did write my first investment check. And, I signed my first shareholders agreement age 20, raised this capital, and at the time didn't take independent legal advice. And throughout that period, I've thought that something was, that it wasn't. And
so let's give that context then. So recently in the press, as some people would have seen, there was a story. The headline is Vibe Tickets goes into administration, bought back by the founder.
Yeah.
So you're well known for raising from the crowd.
Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with the process completely, but from what I understand, that this is a platform. I think it's Crowdcube.
Yes, we used Crowdcube once. Yeah.
So you're going to have to correct me on all these things, but just from the external perception, it's quite good to start there with the ignorance. You raised on Crowdcube, you raised from other investors as well. The business goes under. This is just a public perception based on press. It says Luke Massie has bought the business back. People are annoyed because they think the people that invested have been burnt, and then you've just bought the business back.
Yes.
What's the truth?
So basically what happened was we had a sort of very difficult structure in the old company. And again, touching on that, and without going into the sort of specifics of the details, but we had a very, very restrictive shareholders agreement, which meant that I couldn't take on new capital or I couldn't take on new debt without investor director consent, which meant I constantly had to go back to a person to get their consent to do something. And it got to a stage where, again, we had agreement on the table for more capital to come in, and there was a situation that was engineered, which meant it was favourable to that one person who was holding the cards. And it actually got to a point where the rest of the investors said, well, we're not continuing to invest in this vehicle unless some of these documents are changed. And it then forced Vibe into a position where the company ran out of capital. The company ran out of cash, which meant it was insolvent. And for those that don't understand that process, it means that once a company is declared insolvent, it means that as a director, I have a duty by law to think of creditors first, not shareholders. And that was very, very difficult, considering that I was the biggest shareholder and I was also one of the biggest creditors, having put my director's loan in at the beginning. And people don't understand that. So I had to take the correct legal advice, and I had to take the correct independent insolvency advice. And it was told to me, look, if this company doesn't get capital very, very quickly, the company's going to go under. So I went back to the shareholder base and asked for some short-term capital until I could get this deal over the line, and the money wasn't forthcoming, which meant that I had no other option. So the company was placed into administration, and I wasn't willing to give up on this. There was no way. So I frantically ran around, put some money together, and put a bid together to the independent valuers of the business to say, look, I'm the founder. I'm willing to take this on. Here's my offer to the business. And my offer was conditional. And
Who makes the decision?
So it's the insolvency practitioners, they put an independent valuer in. So they say, okay, we think this business is worth X. And take everything into consideration, and it's a vigorous process, and
sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It's not. It's absolutely horrible. It's the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life because I'm now not in control of my own company, and it could have easily been taken away from me because of this process. And
how did it feel?
And for people to come out in the press to say that this was forced and this was, no one would want to go down that process. If anyone's been through, never mind at the age I am, but no one would want to go down this process.
How does it feel?
I was frustrated, I was angry, I was so close to coming out and saying, you guys don't know what's happened, I've not even come out and made a public statement yet, but going back to what happened is, my offer was conditional, and I went in with an offer, and my offer was declined, my first offer, and I was so surprised that I couldn't understand. Surely I'm the only person that's tried to buy this business, and it became apparent that the one person that tried putting the company into administration had made a bid for my company. Now, people can take that however they want, but it then made being a very, very...
Your original shareholders who had let the business go under also tried to buy it back.
Not only that, this said person actually tried contacting key members of staff prior to it going into that. Now, this hasn't come out, this hasn't been demonstrated because I don't want to go over the past, but the situation that was portrayed was the fact that the headlines...
Contacting key members of staff as if to say, like, I'm going to buy this business and then I'm going to hire the people and then I'm going to run it myself type thing.
You could take that, however you want, but
no comment.
Yeah, exactly. That's the fact that people don't know about. So I've gone in with this offer. My offer's declined. Couldn't believe it. We've had a significantly larger offer, Mr. Massie. At that point, shit was real. This is it. I'm no longer in control of my company. Someone else is buying it. What can I do? So I sold some more personal assets. I sold some Bitcoin. I'm ringing around friends that I know, people that I can rely on. I said, look, I need to get more cash together to buy this business. I was told that I had 2 hours to improve my offer. My script gave some more cash and put my offer in. And my offer was conditional on, I took on the going concerns of the business, things like Salesforce that are operational to the success of the business, but also that every single member of the staff was moved over. I didn't make one redundancy because my team was so important to me. The first priority I had to do was to save the company, to get the staff. So that very day, the transaction completed. Luke Massie buys the company back, okay? That same very day, because of one of my investors was on the stock market, they had to make an announcement to London Stock Exchange, which then all the press got onto it. And the announcement to the stock exchange was just factual. The company went into administration, Luke's bought it back. So not one media outlet in the Northwest rang me for a comment. They all just printed that the company's gone into administration, Luke Massie's bought it back. That was really disappointing for me because not one of them rung me up to ask for comment. Now, So
this
is now spreading around Manchester, and you know the headline was true. The fact was true. Luke Massie did buy the company. I did. Yeah, okay. But why and what's going to happen and what's happening next was never documented. And you know what? It shouldn't have been documented. At the end of the day, this happens. But because Vibe was a public company,
I got to be honest with you. First time I saw the headline, I think someone sent me a screenshot, I probably got sent it. Being honest with you, 9 times probably in the space of about 7 days. Just like, because you know what this entrepreneurial community is like. People send stuff around, and so the first thing I saw was, and I didn't read it properly because it was just a headline. The first thing you think, and because I've got like personal experiences of people doing this to screw me as well, was that the first thing you think is that the business has been flipped, you've shaken off people and debts, and you've started again and screw people. That's what the headlines portray.
Completely agree.
And anyone, if you saw that for Social Chain, you'd think the same thing, because nobody knows your character. Yeah. They know the personal brand, they know the tweets, whatever. They don't know character. Yeah.
And that's the difficult bit, is that.
But then I changed. Once I read, I actually took the time to read some things. I very quickly realised what happened, and understanding how shareholder agreements are written and the past, my own personal past, I completely understood. Yeah. And that's why I messaged you, just to say, look, listen.
No, I appreciate that, and for those listening, you sent me a text. Just keep your head up, Luke. These things happen. You'll shut it off, and to get that from a fellow, in brackets entrepreneur, someone who's going through the challenges that you're going through, that helped me through it. But again, it's that you're talking about character. I think that hurt me the most, which was people are actually questioning your character. People are coming out and saying that you're screwing people over. And this is the thing: is once I'd saved the company, and I know, okay, now I'm back in control of things. The first thing I did was pick up the phone to my lawyer and say, I want to give shares back to the crowd out of my own shares, because that's what I was going to do. That was the right thing. But before I could even come out and comment, first of all, I had to take the right tax advice, because what I didn't want to do was give shares to people and then they would all be landed with a tax bill. So I had to do things correctly. And when I could announce it, I was relieved, because I was like, look, guys, this is what I was trying to do. You were all so quick to come out and judge, and they were so quick to write the headlines. It was just, in that moment, I learned a lot. I learned a hell of a lot about how things are set up, how things are perceived, etc. And
what people want you to happen, like.
Yeah, and I wouldn't like to say that people, do want to see you fail, but evidence backs that up, and that's the thing. And,
of course they do.
Especially people that are in the local community who are trying to champion entrepreneurship. That's really, really bad. At the end of the day, if this was to happen in the States, I guarantee that people would have been sending me very different messages, and the press would have been different.
Let's just take this down to the fundamentals. And I genuinely believe, don't know if this is a good thing to say, don't care. I think 99% of human agenda is selfish in some regard. So when you're winning, say you start winning, and I'm just Tom, Dick, and Harry watching. I'm incentivized, and it's to my advantage to back you.
Agreed. To align yourself with that success.
And then when you fall, because you're joining me as someone that's not done anything, and it's also good, and it makes me feel good to watch you fall, and to also take the opposite side and say, oh, that prick, he fucked up. Have you seen that massive
always knew that was going to happen?
Yeah, that always happens. Yeah. That's why I'm not doing it. That's the same. It makes me feel good as a bystander to think, well, I wasn't inferior to Luke. In fact, Luke was never going to succeed. So we're all the same here. Do you know? It's that kind of like, it's just the way people are chameleons. And when agendas and motives change, they change. So.
No, exactly. And this is the thing, one of the disappointing things was the Sunday Times wrote a piece, not last Sunday, the Sunday before, which was the first page of the business section.
Really?
Which was my face, the image that was used, the image that was used that went on all the billboards, because I was the face of Voom. And the headline was Branson's...
You're joking?
Yeah, exactly. Branson's favourite goes under.
Really?
Now, first of all, I haven't gone under. Second of all, I've acquired the business back and things are actually fine. To the consumer, to a Vibe customer, they would never know what's actually going on. But because Vibe is such a public business in this area, and because, as you said, we've rightly raised capital, it was blown up. But for that to be such a personal headline, that was aimed at me. That's me. That's not the Vibe Limited. I mean, bearing in mind we're separate entities. That was quite hard. But it was a lesson. It was a huge lesson for me, and I can't wait for the day that we get to that stage where that reporter's asking for comment and I can go, no.
Would you?
I don't think...
Would you?
I don't think I'd give him a comment, no, because he's portrayed me to be something that I'm not. And you know, where was my comment when you asked what was going on? Because what he could have done, this is a real talking issue here. Is what he could have done is taken what's happened, painted a fair picture of what's happened, but then asked what I would have done differently. And because this is an interesting story for the startup scene, which is not just from the founder perspective, but also from the investor perspective. Because this could happen if you're too restrictive. This could happen if you force your founder into a corner. We'll find ourselves, we have to. So there's lessons to be learned here from founders, which is make sure you get independent legal advice. And again, I don't want to go over the same points because it is what it is. You can make your own judgments on it. At the end of the day, Vibe's now looking forward, and it's a positive road for us.
I really want to go back to that point about that reporter. That reporter calls you. Vibe's fucking taking over the world. I work for Vibe. Fucking everyone works for Vibe, right? He calls you, says, Luke, can I have a comment? I honestly believe in that moment you should say to him, 100%.
Yeah.
Because that is if you walk around with that grudge and that resentment to somebody who made a decision based on his own bullshit, defects and whatever, his own agendas to make money and just to capitalize on a headline and get clicks, whatever. And if you walk around with that grudge to that person, I think you're losing still.
Yeah, no, and do you know what? I think because it's still raw.
Because it's still raw. 100%.
Because it's still raw, and
you're
that's
human,
the thing.
You know?
And this is actually the first time I spoke about it. You know, I've made comments in. I came out, set the record straight. I'm giving my shares back to the crowd. Since then, I've not said anything. I've just cracked on.
Forgive all these fuckers.
Do you know? And that's I've not said anything, and I've got a business to focus on. I've got an incredible team. I've got an incredible opportunity here with the business. I've got super, super supportive investors that have not just backed me, but they've backed me through this whole process as well. And, you know, they're confident that I'm going to come through this as a stronger leader, but also Vibe is going to come through with this as a stronger business. And I generally do hope that in 2-3 years' time, I look back and when people say, what was the turning point? It was this. It was, I had to shake off that negative, toxic cap. The last 6 months of my life have been managing the investors, not managing the business. Yeah. It became a business itself. This is the problem. And, you know, I've learned from that. At the end of the day, naivety, you know, one of the comments that was on LinkedIn was Luke's young and naive because he's not come out and said something. Okay, fine. You can be entitled to that opinion. I was young and naive at 20, signing a shareholders agreement, which pretty much meant that I couldn't make the decisions on behalf of the company. The other thing is that, you know, that shareholders agreement was never challenged at any investment round I've ever been through, including the Crowdcube round, who have their own lawyers looking at things. So no alarm bell was ever raised for me that something's wrong here until the final raise when the company's run out of capital.
What did it feel like to go on the internet, log in, and see someone you don't know talking shit about you?
Really tough, but not because of the talking shit about me.
What was the worst thing you read?
Luke Massie had this planned all along.
Really?
As if this is like premeditated, I want to screw people. That is ridiculous. Bearing in mind, everyone's been giving shares back. You know, that's it. You know, apart from the guy that put us in this position anyway, and the very small few that were following him. So to have that, it was difficult. I mean, it was new ground. It was new territory for me because I've always been portrayed in the media as a good guy doing the right things at the right time.
This is the thing, though.
And then when it was... You know, and that's...
Does it not cut... So the thing is, the reason why that headline was written by the Sunday Times is presumably because you're, as a brand, big and Vibe is big. And Vibe going under is not really as big a story as, you know, connecting it to someone as big as Richard and then connecting it to yourself. Like, part of the danger, I guess, of building a personal brand where you're known just as much as your business is known is when things do go bad, you'll be fucking dragged into the pits. If nobody knew Luke Massie as an entrepreneur, there would be fucking no story there. There would really not be a story there. But if you think what people like is they like the rise and the fall. They like to cover the Whitney Houston going to the top and then the Michael Jackson falling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it comes with, it's one of the real dangers and one of the things that I'm quite scared about. I'm genuinely scared about with entrepreneurs building their personal brands is you will rise big. And I've seen this in entrepreneurs that I followed. You'll rise big and you'll rise young and you'll be clapped all the way up, right? And then they're waiting. The same motherfuckers are waiting to boo when anything goes wrong. And I've seen friends time after time, their companies go up and then down and then... and the impact it's had on some of them, and it's really fucking tough. Like mental health issues, like especially the real young ones. I'm not talking about you because you're you're much more mature.
Old now, aren't I? Old compared to some of these young
but some of
entrepreneurs.
these kids, I'm talking about 18-year-olds, and I've literally got message from 18-year-old kids asking me how they're meant to deal with this when they've gone bust.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying, and hopefully the process that I've been through, I'd like to shed some like positive light on it, which is lessons we'll learn, and if I can pass that on to the next young founder who's raising some capital, who might not have the resources or the money to get the correct legal advice, I could just maybe point him, look out for this, look out for Dragon Tag, look out for these points.
Three things then.
Yeah.
Three things. I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
I'm Luke. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to start a business.
Correct accountant that can give you the correct advice.
Okay, so that's number one.
Correct lawyer.
Right.
Okay.
Number two.
In fact, no, number one would be a co-founder. Because you'll know with Dom,
Fucking hell, yeah.
if you have someone who can share that burden, someone... I
didn't even think about that.
It's ridiculous. Like a co-founder, someone who you're in the pub with, things are down. Because no one... It's such a lonely place. It is such a lonely place. And if I have a co-founder, I can go, what about this? What about this? It's not on a none other than... It is real context. So even me and you now, we can talk about our issues and our challenges, and there might be the same issue, but in different context. Mm-hmm. So the advice that I give you might work for Vibe, but it might not work for Social Chain, and vice versa. And it then becomes familiarized advice. So your text to me was brilliant, but in context, it wasn't. If that makes sense, which is Luke. Well, that's really hard, Steve. When people are writing about me, you know what I mean? It's like, but what you're saying is right. And I think having a co-founder to share that responsibility, because it's sanity as well, which is what I think it would be even 20 times harder if you was the only founder and you've no one to bounce that off. Yeah. So first of all,
you can get sucked into the bullshit. That can become your reference point.
I see that really bad. Like I see founders coming to me going, "Look, I've actually got this. It's worth, we're touching $1 million now in revenue. What's the next step?" And I said, go and find a co-founder. Like, even we're 3 years in, I don't care. Like, go and find the guy that you can share, but he's worth 5%, 10%, 20% equity. Believe me, in the long run. Like, go and find that guy, go and find that girl. And also co-founders need to understand what they're getting into as well, which is so many people talk about their co-founder, and the co-founders have no value whatsoever. And that's another thing that's interesting. We were having a conversation before this, and that does happen. So yeah, get a co-founder, get the right documents in place from a legal point of view, even between you and your co-founder. It's like going into a relationship and having a mortgage or whatever it is. It's like, set the foundations right from day one, just because the only purpose of a contract is for when things go wrong. And shit will go wrong.
And the crazy thing is, especially when you're young, you're so eager to just give it a fucking go that you don't want to spend so much. You just want to get the fucking money in and the thing put in the drawer and the contract signed, and you think, from here on in, we're just going to build $1 billion company. I'm going to retire with a fucking jet. Everything's going to go fine. We're never even going to need to look at that contract again. But I'm yet to run a business. I've probably raised investment in some way, maybe 13 times. And the contract, every single raise, I've looked at it and thought, oh, God, I wish I'd done something differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the first couple. The first investment, I thought, fuck, I fucked myself.
Insane, isn't it? Yeah.
Second one, I thought I fucked myself again.
Like when this all came to, I looked at it, I was like, Luke,
just for
you
the record,
signed
my
that.
current investors are amazing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, yeah. But I mean, I looked at these, I was like, Luke, you signed that. That's mad. Like, seriously.
But you didn't know better.
But this is what I'm trying to say. And people, this is what the press could have run.
Yeah.
This press could have, look, this has happened. Luke's come through it. He's managed the process. Let's put that behind us.
That's not a story.
No, I know. But
no one's getting clicks for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Luke's come through it. He's managed the process.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Richard Branson's favourite's gone under.
It's not, doesn't make it right.
And this is why I don't take it all so personally. I know those same people that are going to fucking tear me down are the ones that are going to build me up, So
how are you going, like, for those listeners, how are you going about mitigating that? Are you going into every situation, analysing, or are you just going, fuck it, why not, like, to a certain extent? Or are you going, do you know what, is this a correct use of my time? Is this correct for what I'm trying to get across? And could this be misconstrued?
Give me a more specific example.
So you get invited on to go onto TV. How do you value that?
So how do I make the decisions?
Yes.
So been asked to go on loads of TV shows. If you ask my team or you ask anyone in the company, MTV have asked me to go on a show called How I Got Rich, and I look at what they want me to do, and it's you go on a helicopter, show your Rolexes. No, fuck you.
Yeah.
I've probably had that exact offer with the title change 10 times. No, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm looking for things that will bring value in some respect to things I care about.
There's two things I care about. Do you not think there's a responsibility?
It's not who I am.
There's a responsibility of people that are following you and following your brand expect something, and for you to go and do that is
Here's what I don't want to do. 18-year-old Steve Bartlett wrote in his diary, I want to be a millionaire before I'm 25. I want a Range Rover to be my first car. I want to work on my body image. And the fourth one was I want to have a long-term girlfriend. Long story. I did all four of those things, but upon doing those things, I realised that those weren't the things that are going to give me happiness and fulfillment. So at that point, when I was 25 years old and I looked at my diary,
but how do you explain that to an 18-year-old?
So this is what I mean. Like, so I get there, I realise that money and stuff aren't going to do it for me, and I look back down the age ladder, let's call it, and I see 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. They're looking at footballers and they're looking at all these things. I don't want those fuckers to make the same mistake I did.
Do you think that's an influencer issue?
I talk about on every channel on this podcast, every single fucking episode, about how
stop thinking that something is it's smoke and mirrors.
Stop chasing after pleasure thinking it's happiness.
Yeah.
Because there's this thing called the hedonistic treadmill, which is when you chase the Lamborghini, you get a Lamborghini. I've sat in my friends' Lamborghinis. A week later, they don't like their Lamborghinis anymore because you adapt and then you're looking for the next thing. And they probably
sold things like their name and morals to get it as quick as possible.
And so my thing is, I'm never going to get there, ever. I'm never going to get to this place.
There's not a destination, is there?
There's no. So I have to create a life where I'm already there in every sense of the word. I've got enough now. I'm happy enough now. If I died today, I've done enough. I've been nice and all those things. So I've stopped pinning my fulfillment on a future extrinsic goal of getting something or achieving something. And I've built my life to where I want it to be sustainable now. I want to speak to my mum more. I want to give to charity now. I'm not trying to cut down the rainforest and then donate to the fucking the rainforest. I'm gonna build a business which within the rainforest that helps the rainforest, you know? So it's just a change in my perspective, and I share that perspective. I don't share my car I don't share what I'm, you know, I don't share how I travel or the nicer things. I try not to share the extravagant things because I don't want to trick anyone into thinking that matters.
Yeah.
It's a journey I've been on. It's an interesting thing I wanted to ask you as well is what's your relationship? I probably tainted this answer, but what's your relationship and motives when it comes to money? What do you want from money? Security.
So I think one thing that I've craved throughout my life is security, you know, knowing that I can look after my mum and that's it. As long as there's a level of security, I think, looking after my family, I think, you know, and not just security, but even down to my day-to-day decisions. And, you know, I'm in a long-term relationship. I've got a stable relationship, and that's something that I've craved from a young age, which is, you know, I was the eldest. I was looking after my brothers and sisters. I was trying to add stability ever since I was young. I was the one, you know, trying to support my mum through tough times. So I think that stability is a massive thing for me, because as an entrepreneur, to want stability is quite insane, because even as we operate, stability isn't the best for it. Yeah, exactly. So my life, in terms of vibe, in terms of how I approach things, is so unprocessed. It's, you know, to a certain extent, it's like the creative mind. Chaos. And then I go home, and Luke Massie at home is stable, you know, craves that thing. I go home, I still, you know, go and see my mum frequently, do the food shop with her, that sort of thing. And that, I think, is how I've been able to sort of stay, grounded to a certain extent. Not that I've gone on and achieved things that I want to yet, but I think it just puts perspective on things. I still go into, you know, the Ingle Labour Club in Preston, where it's £2 a pint and people playing darts and people play pool. That's Friday night, you know, and that's because that's where I'm from, you know. You talked about going home to your partner. Yep. What's the deal? That she's your girlfriend? Yes. So Frankie, I've been with Frankie since I was 20 years old. Christ. You know, really good girl. Again, brought stability. She's got her own business. Her life is busy as well. She's got her own beauty salon. Does she understand? Yes, I think she understands the. Does she understand? Well, I don't know. I think she understands business to her. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. What's funny is because she'll come to me with her problems. I'm like, that is your problem. Like, let me explain the real problem. It's so funny. Every time I ask that question to an entrepreneur, it's the exact same response. I say, "You got a partner? Does she understand?" They go, "Yeah, she." And I go, "Does she understand?" Yeah. They go, "No, she fucking doesn't." She's really smart. She's doing all, I'm does her own thing. She's going to listen to this, or not? She's like, but like my. So I was because I ain't got anyone to go home to. If anyone's listening to this and single, just at Steve quick. So my thing is,
I have got to understand that they'll never really understand, and I will cause immense friction trying to get them to understand.
Right there. That's a tweet.
Like in my past relationships, I've caused such immense friction by trying to get them to understand this thing that I can't even use words to explain.
Yeah.
I can say it's really fucking hard. You don't know what's hard. You're using your reference point of what hard means to you.
That's the thing. You go back home and tea's on the table, and it's like, "How's your day been?" It's like.
Do I even bother?
What do you mean? Yeah, what
do I even bother telling
how
you?
How do I explain that? You know, it is insane. But at the same time, if I was to ask, and I do, what's your problems? It's like, well, this girl came in and wasn't happy with this, or what? You know, it's I can't even relate to that. And
It's
I'm
all
like,
relative.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, for me, it's it's that stability, and it's, you know, without getting the violin or anything. But when I was growing up, I never had a proper like Christmas that you know, like everyone was around the table, and then, you know, I found this girl and I'd go around to her house and that was the family, you know, and I felt myself, well, this is what I wanted.
They say behind every great man is a great, you know, woman, or they say behind every great woman is a great man.
I'm sure. It's, you know, it's one of those. It's at the end of the day, I think it works for me. Stability, you know, at home, in home life. I think then it gives you that rock. So when you are going through these turbulent times, you've got that other person that's going, yeah, but Luke, so what? You know, it's like, and then it's like you've said, you've got to then live in the moment and reflect and go, do you know what? Look where I actually am. This is what, you know, what's the worst that can happen? I go back to living in a council estate.
You're not scared of that.
I've come from that. That's fine. We'll go back there. My mate's still there. It's not a problem. You know,
you're not scared of the bottom because you're cool there.
That's what I'm saying. It's like just go for it, sort of thing. But
I noticed in your bio it says giving it a real go.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like people said to me, "Oh, that is all I'm doing," and I might fail and fine, but I tell you what, I'm going to just keep learning, keep giving it a go.
Why is it worth trying? Why don't you just go get a job at, you know, somewhere nice and comfy with no fucking stress? You can clock off at 6. You can just chill out, you know. You'll know how much money's coming in. You don't have to fucking worry about any bank balances or anything. Nice cushy life. You'll go on holidays every quarter.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of my friends in stable jobs and stable relationships have that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I don't think everyone is born to do this. For me, I think it's again, all I've ever done in my life is ask why. And I think what I'd do if I did that is I'd be asking myself every single morning, why am I going and doing this? And I'd then probably get to the answer, which is it's giving me money, or it's allowing me to go on that holiday. So then I'd say to myself, well, how could I do that anywhere by doing something I wanted? And I'd always keep coming around back at that same question. It'd probably come back to freedom, being able to live life on my own terms. You know, however I do things might not be the right way, but I'm going to give it a go in Luke Massie's way.
But think about this, Luke. You know, all this fucking pain, all this stress, all this bullshit.
You're asking me a question that you don't know the answer to. So
no, I know the answer. I know the answer to it.
You do know the answer to it.
So I know, like, why I tolerate all the bullshit.
So why do you tolerate bullshit?
Because there is no other fucking version of Steve Bartlett. There's no other version. So it's not, for me, it's not even a choice. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying, and also...
Yeah, but you could ask a guy who's in a stable job on 70k a year nice holidays,
and he might give you the same answer. So it's all about alternatives. Would I rather be in a cushy middle ground somewhere, earning stable checks and just, you know, coasting through life, you know, not really challenging myself, or would I rather take the risk and go for it? I'm someone that is so deeply connected to my own mortality. Like the way that one of the big things I say to people when they're trying to figure out how they should live their lives, right, is, you know, there's an expression, live every day as if it's your last. Bullshit. Do not do that. That's fucking terrible advice. If you lived every day as if it was your last, you would definitely have an addiction. What if this was an hourglass, this can of whatever it is here, and I put it on your desk, right, and it poured down how many days you had left, 40 days, right? Would you ask yourself this, would you A, be holding the grudges you had right now? Would you B, be doing the thing you do every day when you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and leave at 7 o'clock at night? If you could see the sand pouring out of the hourglass into the bottom, and you say it had 50 years, I think people would live a completely different life. I think they would take more risks. I think they would forgive easier. This is why I was talking about forgiving that guy.
Do you think people are scared, though? Do you think people are scared of, right, well, I've got this, this is my comfort zone?
Here's the great thing.
Yeah.
This is the great thing with the hourglass. It tells you where you're going to end up regardless. You're going to die. Like, it's the real... Yeah. It's the great
this
thing.
This is reality. Deal with it.
Like, no matter what... So what's the thing to be most scared of, I think, in probably life is death, right? So people are scared that they might not be able to pay the bills. You're going to die. The
Yeah,
most
it's the biggest
scariest thing
one.
is going to happen.
Yeah.
And Steve Jobs, he really inspired me with his commencement speech where he said, like, you're already naked. And understanding that I'm going to die has given me all of the fearlessness to go for it regardless. All of these fuckers writing about you, they're going to die too.
Yeah.
They're all going to be fucking forgotten. And also one of the things that's really liberated me is really believing that I'm really not special, that I'm insignificant to the world. I don't matter, and therefore all of my problems and my shit doesn't really matter anyway. It's a game. I've got this hourglass on my desk. The sand is pouring.
I'm just going to use my time as however I want.
I'm going to forgive people. I'm not going to do petty things. I'm not going to worry about what people think about my hair. If they want to talk shit about me on my deathbed, and this is like what I call deathbed thinking, which is the book I've been talking about a lot, is am I going to care about Jenny that doesn't know me tweeting me telling me I'm a fucking idiot, which happens probably 10 times a day. I'm not going to care about that. I'm going to care about my mum and what I did and how good I was. And so trying to live my life now as if, I'm on my deathbed and the hourglass is ticking away has given me, why the fuck would I go do that call centre job I did for 12 hours a day if the hourglass was there?
Yeah.
Making money to pay the bills for me has never made any sense.
Well, I think that's what I mean by the why, isn't it? It's like questioning that why.
Imagine just paying the bills till you die.
Well, that happens, doesn't it?
Like, that does.
And people,
And I'm not-
you know what I mean? And people are cool with that, and that's the thing.
They're cool with that.
And by the way,
Steve-
there's nothing wrong with people in call
No,
centres.
listen, there is the thing that it's wrong for everybody to do is do some shit for the rest of your life where you tolerate some stuff you hate.
Definitely. I
That is-
couldn't agree more with
If
that.
you love being a fucking school teacher,
Love it.
amazing.
Live it, breathe
You
it,
are
yeah.
you are more successful than
Well, that scenario
A
is, if you
multi-millionaire
wasn't
that
being
hates
paid
their
for this,
life.
would you still do it?
100%.
That's the question I ask people. If
I
you
did
were-
it for 2 years without being paid.
Exactly.
I was a kid in Moss Side, like trying to build a business, shoplifting food, like trying to, and the money hasn't impacted me in any way.
No, it's good to see. It is good to see, and I think there's a lot of people that follow you and are influenced by you. And I'm not just because I'm satty, but I think you are someone that people should listen to and be influenced by the correct influence. Love Island starts next week, and people are influenced by the wrong things, definitely. And I think you're in that position now where you are paying back. Even this podcast, I think you're spending your time now. I'm spending my time now trying to give back, and I think that's important. And the journeys that I've been on, even the last 6 months, I think it's really important because if you can just help that one person. You were telling me about another business that you've been involved in, and it was someone that was actually part of your competition. I mean, that's just insane.
I want to take it back to that thing you said. So you said, why don't you just go get like the middle ground, whatever, something, that's comfortable. Why doesn't Luke Massie go do the comfortable thing?
I don't know. I'm trying to find it. It sounds to me like you've had a lot of time to think about this because you've probably been asked it a lot more than me. This is the first time I've been asked it, and I probably don't really have the straight answer to it. I think for me, it's
what is making Luke Massie. What's driving him? What's driving him? I'm talking in third person here, but like, what's?
Oh, this is another hard question. I don't know. I don't know. I think what was driving me to get up and do the milk round when I was 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think for me, it's settling or thinking that you're there, or I don't know. It's such a tough one. I think for me, it's just an internal drive. And
what do you want your life to look like? Say in 10 years' time, what does your so let's say 20 years' time, what does your life look like?
I can't see it.
You can't see it.
That's what probably scares me. That's probably what drives me.
Right.
And it's not that enough is enough for me. It's that because I've craved stability all my life. It's probably getting to that place where even if this failed or even if this failed, everything would be fine. And I don't know whether I'll ever get to that stage like you're saying, and maybe you're a year ahead on that.
Do you know what I think as well? I think because
I think we're still both learning. You're learning.
100%.
I'm learning. We're both we're on this cycle, and this is the thing. And it's our duty to pass it on, just as we're getting passed on information.
I think it is. This is my observation from like this conversation. I think you're right in the sense that I've gone a little bit further down the cycle because of the types of issues I'm dealing with. So you're dealing, as you said, you spent the last how many months dealing with like investor stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm spending less of my time dealing with that kind of thing. And when you're dealing with investor stuff, like raising, it's every waking hour of the day and it's urgent and it's so important. So you don't have the headspace to think a little bit longer.
Agreed. And I think I need to put, fast forward a couple months, I've got some key staff coming into business. For me, it's just stepping back operationally, even if it's just for getting the head out of the clouds and just seeing things from a different perspective, I think will help things.
And I think that's what it is. So I think I just had, because there's managing directors running the business, I think I've had a lot of thinking time. And I remember key moments when, one real moment which made me think about why the fuck I'm doing what I do every day was that when we got a real offer to buy the business from a very big media company. Like there's $1 billion, probably $100 billion media company. And I went home that night as a 24-year-old, and I thought, okay, so if I sell and I accept this offer, then what do I do?
Yeah.
And that was the moment where you start to really realize, like, what would the money do for me versus taking this purpose from me? And then really, thinking, what would I do tomorrow? Would I start another business? Do I could just spend the money? Do I want more money? Realizing that, like the motive for me to get loads more money really isn't the thing. So why am I doing it then? Because 18-year-old Steve, when he started and he wrote it in his diary, it was all money. Okay, so last question. Dinner table. There are 6 seats. You're sitting in one of them. I'm sitting in the other. I get to cook. There are 4 other seats. Dead or alive, you can invite anybody to this dinner party. Who do you invite to the table and why?
You were these questions.
Who are the first people that popped to mind?
Mum.
Your mum. Fine, nice.
Even if she won't understand it.
It's really interesting that you'd bring her. It says a lot about you as well.
I think even though she won't understand it, or that there's other people, even if there was the most famous guy in the world there, but my mum.
On that, I'm going to dive slightly there. So your mum has been this incredibly important influence in your life, as you've explained, and everything you've said has kind of touched back to that. In those tough moments where people are talking shit, and from your mum's perspective, those are people talking shit about her son. Is that one of the things that really gets to you the most?
No, because I protect her from it. She won't even know. No, she doesn't see that. I mean, my mum.
What about your girlfriend?
My mum doesn't have even Wi-Fi on. Yeah, my girlfriend sees it. I think,
but she knows the truth.
Yeah, and she's extremely supportive, and she knows that my actions have always said who I am.
So she knows you.
Yeah, exactly. And how I go about things day to day, how I support things. Anyone who knows me. Mm-hmm. Even without seeing those headlines, sent me a message because they know me as a character. They know whatever's gone on, Luke. Don't really need to know the detail. It'll be cool. That's the sort of thing.
Know you,
yeah, they know me, and it's so. Yeah, I think it's becoming hard into it and just distancing yourself. But from my mum's point of view, she doesn't understand what I do, and
same.
My mum is she's an alcoholic. She's she's in that place where I'm just a son, and it doesn't matter what happens. I'm still a son, and I think she's happy for me. So, it's about protecting her and knowing that I think my mum blames a lot of things that have happened in our life down to her, especially external circumstances.
Is she hard on herself?
Well, yeah, and I think that was, one of the reasons for turning to alcohol. That was her sort of probably escape and still is to a certain extent. But
and have you dealt with that your whole life?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So
your whole life?
My whole life. So it's. For me, it's so when I was young, I was very aggressive towards it. You could probably tell my character. I was confused. Didn't understand why. I didn't, and I would come home and one day you'd get my mum who was up and the house was clean, and then some days you'd get my mum's been in bed for 3 days because she's depressed and she can't face the world, and I just couldn't understand it because I didn't suffer from depression and I don't suffer from depression. So there was confusion, anger. As a young lad, you're still trying to figure yourself out. You're going through puberty, you're growing up, etc. And there was all this, and then and also, which is worth pointing out, is you'll have seen my personal brand and personal message. When I was 17, 18, 19, and I was trying to start this option, you'd see me in shirts and ties and suits, and because I was trying to portray this picture, thinking that I was this lad, and it actually got to a stage where I started thinking, do you know what? What am I hiding from here? Why am I embarrassed? This is it. And it's probably a massive part of my story. And, it's what drives me. It's who I am. So why hide from it? And it started becoming real then. And, the tie then came off and then the shirt came off. And, and now I'm just cool within myself.
And you talked about depression there.
Yes.
And you said, so we live in a world where depression, anxiety, all these things are both the awareness of them are increasing, but the data says that they're increasing as well.
Yep.
And in founders and young founders like myself and you, we go through so much bullshit.
Yep.
Right? So much
and also,
anxiety.
One of our biggest things is we take on the responsibility of everything that goes on. So I'm talking there about protecting my mum from things. I make sure I go out of my way to make sure that she doesn't hear the bad things because that would hurt her. But you do it for your staff. You do it for...
You're the umbrella of everything.
You are everything. So, and yes, sometimes you're in the press and you're in the limelight and it seems like you're the front man. But guess what? that is the tip of the iceberg.
And you're dealing with that.
90%, you're dealing with it.
No, but you're dealing with it 24/7. When you know.
But everyone's doing it. Everyone's got their own battles.
Yeah,
and
but listen, your battles are unique, right?
Yeah.
And they're proportionally bigger. Same as I'm talking about myself as well when I say this, but they're proportionally bigger than, worrying about what Jenny said about your hair at work. Like, and after this conversation, when you look at your phone or your emails, there'll probably be some bullshit there for you to deal with. I always used to have this kind of like email anxiety, especially when I was in the tech business.
You wake up in the morning, you don't want to see your email.
You don't want to see your email because you're fresh. There's going to be some fucking bad news because every day there is, right? Going back to the point about mental health, have you suffered with anything?
One thing I would say is I'm probably cold in terms of some relationships. Emotionally, because something bad's coming, something bad's going to happen. So you even from a young age, you become hard. So when my mum had serious depression when I was younger, and even Child Service Agency nearly came in at one point. It was that bad. That I protected my brother and sisters, so I made sure that they knew they were loved and things were fine. And mum's just going for a bad time. So that then, was straight away from an early age. And as I said, I think then every challenge you go through, then it just toughens you up and toughens you up.
The toughening up thing, though, I mean, that's like conducive with. I'm asking this because I'm interested for me, right? So I used to think, I'm tough, I'm hard. And you hear these stats about men and, male suicide and these kinds of things. And you think, Steve, maybe you're not super fucking Superman. Yeah. Maybe you too are susceptible to these things. And I think from the age of 18 to 24, building my business, I thought, no, I could never get anything. No mental health issues could ever touch me. Now I've changed my mind. Yeah. Now I think, after reading so many books, I'm like, I need to take care of myself.
Yeah, we're probably the most vulnerable when you think about it.
We are, because we also convince ourselves that we are immune, and we close down. We don't share as much on the emotional side because we have teams.
And if you was to ask Frankie, my partner, she'd probably say that is the number one issue that she has with me, which is I don't tell my problems, and then she'll see it, and it's like, what? Yeah, like you've been going through that, and it's like, well, yeah, but. It's not your issue,
my
it's my
ex-girlfriend turned around to me and she said in the car, I fucking looked at me like a ton of it. She went, "Are you depressed?" And I wasn't.
Are you bipolar? Because one minute I'm buzzing, I've just done a day, I'm fine. Then next minute my world's changed.
You're a million miles away, sat next to somebody.
Exactly.
And but that's interesting. I think it's just one of the things that I'm really, again, this is being a little bit further down the path, is I'm really focusing on taking care of myself, because I now believe.
So how do you do that mentally? Do you
there's a number of things. Nice. So there's a book I've got to recommend, which I read this week, called Lost Connections, and it's all about debunking the idea that mental health issues are anything to do with a chemical imbalance, and it's not what's wrong with you, it's what's happened to you. And it goes through all of these major studies.
Environmental rather than natural.
Yeah, and it goes through all of these major studies that prove this. So it goes through everything from like nature, right? Nature and us as animals being creatures of a certain environment. They show a study where prisoners who face out onto green grass are 25% less likely to get depressed than prisoners that face out onto concrete. That's one thing, right? Then there's other things like we're social animals, we're tribe animals. That's how we evolved and survived today. So we've got incredibly lonely in this connected world, to the point now where the average American, when they're asked, how many people have you got that you could really count on if you needed to and like depend on and talk to in those moments, the most popular answer now is 0. 15 years ago, it was 3. We're becoming more and more isolated in this like crazy connected world. They show all these studies. They show that people who have close friends and family and talk to them and socialize are significantly less likely to become depressed.
So I've got a question for you then, which is, if you don't mind me saying,
100%.
Off the record, prior to this sort of podcast, it was, you were saying to me that you've got very, very few friends, you're extremely busy, etc. And you said
lonely.
You haven't got, exactly. And you sort of said to yourself, you even said to me and admitted, I feel like I'm a bit of a social recluse now. You read this book, and one of the things is that we're tribal and we're socialising. Do you think that that's what you need to do? Do you think you need to let a few more people into your circles?
The romantic relationships bit is exactly linked to that. So I 100% do. And this is why, and it doesn't come naturally to me. You have to come to
Preston, honestly, you'll find a good girl in Preston.
It doesn't come naturally to me, right? So what I want to do naturally is go home tonight and go on my laptop. What? Because
that's comfort zone. That's not what you're doing.
I think I'm good alone.
Depends what you're searching at. 11:30 at night, though, doesn't it?
It'll be my emails, I promise you. But what I've done tonight is I messaged my friend. I said, "Listen, I'm doing this podcast, and then let's go for a drink." I don't want to do it. No, he knows that. I've called it. I told him on the phone. I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to go see friends. He knows I don't want to fucking do it. He knows I'm doing it because I now believe that I should do these things. It's better for my mental health. It's better for my business. Therefore, it's going to make me a much happier person in the long term. I believe in it. So I'm doing things because I believe in them, not because they're habit. Let's say. Back to this table.
So back to this table. Elon Musk's got to be on there for me.
Yeah,
as just a guy that is just challenging everything. You know, he is for me the entrepreneur disruptor. He is. Yeah, something's not right. I'm going to do something about it, and that's it. And you know what? He might not get them all right, but do you know what? And do you know what he's actually done? He's taken the blueprint of what Richard Branson did, and he's made it better. You know, putting that car up into space, doing whatever he's done with hype. He's just taken what's already existed and done it better.
My thing with Richard Branson, Elon, the reason why I love him is because he was willing to spend all of his billions from PayPal on fucking electric cars and space travel.
Backing himself again, that's what it is.
Bigger than him. He's not trying to make money. This guy is trying to change the world.
Exactly.
He's not an entrepreneur.
He wants to build a legacy.
That is trying to get PR. He doesn't give a he wants to change the world. That's his number one agenda point. I can't say that.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest with myself, I'm not.
But the reason why he's in that position is because he's bought himself that time in that position. You know, he's bought himself that respect.
That's why I consider him great.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
My one
because that's what money gives you is that choice. So if you can get social chain and social group to where you think it can, and I can get vibe where I think it can be, we'll then be in position in 5-10 years time where we can do things that we want to do, and our agenda can change. So, you know. Again, he's got to be on the top of the list for admirers, cool. As an entrepreneur. So, my mum, Elon Musk, you're on the table. Are you on the table, man? You're not on the table?
I'm cooking already, so
I'm you're cooking. Okay.
Let's go for music. Something in music, maybe, or
music. Got to be Kanye West. Kanye West, because he's just.
We're not going to get to eat anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking.
Yeah, he's just outside thinker, rightly or wrongly.
I love him, but I do think he's a bit of a false prophet.
No, that's what I'm saying. Rightly or wrongly,
I think he's a genius, and
he is a genius. Yeah, and they say, don't they, about genius and insanity that they're so close together, and I think he is on 100%. There. But if you had Elon Musk, Kanye West,
your mum,
my mum, wow, that is insane.
Last one.
Stephen Hawking.
Interesting.
Stephen Hawking, definitely. He left his mark on the world. There was a few funny jokes, obviously, when he passed away. But yeah, he's a genius. I mean, I've watched his films, the two different ones. You know, the guy was a bit of a player back in the day. He had 6 or 7 different. Andy was a geek. You know, he was the original guy, weren't he? So yeah, Stephen Hawking's, Elon Musk, Kanye West, and my mum.
How do you want to be remembered? I've just stole that from the True Geordie. It's gonna be so mad.
How do I want to be remembered? As a guy that had morals, as a guy that had beliefs and stayed true to it, whether it was right or wrong. And I want people to know when I've had a discussion with him or they've met me is that everything I've said there and then is actually what he believes. Mm-hmm. You might not agree with it, and that's cool. I am cool with that, but you know where you stand with Luke Massie. You know he's honestly speaking from the heart, and he's not got an agenda. He's not. That's who he is. You know, and I'll give the right feedback at the right time, and you know, it's not it's just if you're asking me for something, I'll give it you, and you know, honesty, and that's why I think because of what's been said in the podcast, that's why it's so close to the heart, so passionate about it. So yeah, I think just being a man of his word.
Amazing. And on that point, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Pretty late now. What time is it? Super late at night. 11 o'clock. So better go get some food. But thank you so much for coming on. And people can find you on Twitter and everywhere under Luke Massie everywhere.
Yeah.
And obviously they can find Vibe tickets everywhere. So it's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure we'll continue these discussions off the mic. So thanks,
great. Thanks, Steve.
For the last couple of years, I've been working on something that I realised every podcaster listening to this, but actually probably every creator listening to this, might just need. Podcasting is difficult for many reasons, and one of them is that these hosting platforms don't give you much information, and also, because they're so fragmented, you kind of have to go through every single platform, uploading it to YouTube, and then taking the same big old video file and uploading it to Spotify's platform. It takes huge amounts of time, and that friction means most of us don't do it. That is the problem we set out to solve, and so we built something called Flightcast, which you can find at flightcast.com.
flightcast.com. And today, Flightcast is also one of our show sponsors. And some of the world's biggest podcasters are now using our platform to run their shows because it gives you an edge. It saves you time. It gives you analytics most people won't typically get. It allows you to use AI to be more informed on your show, and it has growth tools that other hosting platforms don't have. So podcasters that are using Flightcast have this unfair advantage. So go to flightcast.com/DOAC now.